We have a very tight program with 7 speakers, so time will be a problem, and I ask all the speakers really to stick to the time allocated, and this is 15 minutes to talk. After each presentation, we can answer 2 or 3 questions, but please stick to these 15 minutes. So the first presentation is by myself, and I see it as an introduction to the subject of neglected diseases. I want to show you what neglected diseases are and what the major problems are we are facing. Can we have the slides for the first presentation, please? Okay, neglected diseases, they are part of the tropical diseases, and I want to show you first what pathogens are causing these diseases. There are 4 groups. There are viruses responsible, there are bacteria, then we have protozoan, these are unicellular parasites, and then we also have multicellular parasites, the helminths or worms. The WHO, they defined 17 diseases to be neglected tropical diseases, and I show you in which category they belong. Among the viruses, we have dengue fever and rabies. With the bacteria, we have Buruli ulcer, leprosy, blinding trachoma, and jaws. With the protozoans, we have vector-borne diseases like Chagas disease, sleeping sickness, and leishmaniasis. And finally, among the helminths, we have 9 diseases caused by tapeworms, by flukes, by hookworms, by roundworms, by filari. This is a real zoo, I tell you. So these are these 17 neglected tropical diseases. But what is the global burden they represent in contrast, for instance, to the important diseases in developing worlds like malaria, AIDS, and tuberculosis? These are numbers from 2010. Now, when we list the DALIs, and the DALI, these are the years which get lost due to illness, due to disability or early death. If you list them, then they appear individually to be low, but when you add them all up, then you get the number of 26 million DALIs per year. Well, this is of course much less than what the so-called big 3 diseases are causing. This is over 200 million DALIs. Now, interesting is that the figure established based on the numbers of the year 2004 were double. So the question now is, did the number come down in 6 years? Or is this due to different methodologies, because the 2 studies were done by different people? I think it is also a study bias in there. Now, how can we control these neglected diseases? The best way to do it is by using drugs and vaccines. And the current situation is such that for many of these important diseases, we are still using old and toxic drugs. For other diseases, we only have 1 drug, for instance, for schistosomiasis. Or for Chagas disease, there's only 1 drug. Then, especially the helminth drugs, they have low efficacy, which is unsatisfactory. Resistance, of course, is a problem with any parasite. Difficult applications, cost and availability. So you see, it's a huge list, and there's a lot to do. And on top of that, there is no vaccine for protozoan or helminth diseases. This is something colleagues are working very hard on. Now, with current diagnostics, the situation is a bit similar. Diagnostics for neglected diseases are also a bit neglected. They depend on the cultivation of the pathogens. This is, of course, very time-consuming. Microscopic examination of body fluids is the gold standard for many of the diseases. This is laborious, and also some populations, they don't like to have their blood taken. Serological tests, they suffer from problems with specificity and sensitivity, and so on. PCR, of course, would be great, but it's not easy to bring it into the field, but it's not impossible either. And here, the summary is that point-of-care diagnostics are greatly missing for these diseases. Point-of-care diagnostics could actually do a lot. They could not only diagnose the disease, they could also give information on the parasite. Is the infection viral, bacterial, or caused by a protozoan? It could also give information on drug resistance, provided that the gene underlying resistance is known. They could help in diagnosing CNS infections. Currently, a lumbar puncture is being used for CNS diagnosis, which is very critical in Africa. It would be easy if this could be done on a blood sample. And finally, a whole panel, and we are going to hear about such projects, whole panel of diseases or symptoms could be treated with modern POC diagnostics. Now, some 30 years ago, R&D for new drugs, diagnostics, and vaccines was exclusively in the hands of pharmaceutical industry. But then they stopped. They stopped for obvious reasons to do that. Unfortunately, by the change of the millennium, many new initiatives came up. Initiatives, networks, foundations, you call it as you wish, public-private partnerships for diagnostics, drugs, and vaccines. And I just want to mention two. One is the Foundation for Innovative New Diagnostics. They do a great job to deliver new diagnostic tools for such diseases. And then another interesting organization is the Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative. They want to deliver new drugs or new formulations for the very neglected diseases, Chagas disease, African sleeping sickness, and leishmaniasis. This list is not complete. There are at least another 20 partners on the market. Well, I also want to show you first successes. This is a new rapid test to screen for sleeping sickness, which was developed by Find and partners. It is an elegant rapid test which uses just a drop of blood from a finger prick, and the result is available in 15 minutes when you see 3 bands appearing here. But also on the side of new drugs, fortunately, many things are happening, and I want to show you an example for a very neglected disease where the drug situation was terrible some 10 years ago, and this is African sleeping sickness. And here, under the leadership of DNDi, the Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative, one project is very far advanced, and this is the fexinidazole. This is an old nitroimidazole which was rediscovered. And Today, over 200 patients are already treated in Central Africa, and the result looks actually pretty promising, although the follow-up is not done completely yet. So still a lot can happen, but if everything goes well, then a final approval of the new drug would be expected for early 2017. And there is a second molecule for African sleeping sickness in the pipeline of DNDi, and this is this molecule you see here. It is a benzoxaborole. It is a small drug-like molecule which contains one boron atom here. It has excellent pharmacokinetic properties. It is rather untoxic. It cures all the mouse models you can think about. It has not been in patients yet, but everybody is convinced that it will cure patients. And based on the very long half-life, there is even hope, and this would be really fantastic, that we could end up with a single oral dose treatment. Wow. The London Declaration on Neglected Tropical Diseases you may have heard about, maybe not. 2 years ago, many major players, they met in London. There were, WHO was there, the Gates Foundation, all the major pharma companies, governments, representatives of ministries of health of affected countries. And they declared that they want to eradicate, eliminate, or control 10 neglected diseases by the year 2020. And for eradication, they have the guinea worm on the agenda, and they will reach this goal, I tell you. And then for elimination, there are 4 diseases. This is leprosy, trachoma, African sleeping sickness, and lymphatic filariasis. And then 5 diseases which are obviously harder to tackle. They are just for control, but control would be a first step in the direction of elimination, and the final end would be eradication. Now, what does it take to reach these goals? You have here in these colors, in the dark blue, you have where we are for the diseases. The first pack of diseases is for elimination, the second one for control. You see how far we are, and then in this purple color, this tells us where we can go by the year 2020 with existing tools. But most of these diseases, in addition, they need new tools and new strategies. And that means primarily better diagnostics and better drugs, including better drug delivery systems, possibly vaccines. So this is an extremely ambitious goal, and I believe it depends a lot on these new tools. So everybody speaks about elimination, and I'm very happy that this elimination came up, because this is a goal which makes a lot of sense. You know, once a disease is gone, it will not come back. So economically, it's a good investment. But of course, it's not done by new tools like diagnostics, drugs, and vaccines. It will also need a lot of political will. And some of these countries are sometimes not so easy to bring together, and it needs significant funding. But fortunately, funding nowadays is not so much a problem any longer, since we have the Gates Foundation and big organizations like the Wellcome Trust, for instance. And for all of you at this conference, there is a lot of room for nanomedicine. So help us to bring nanomedicine into diagnostics, into new drugs. I heard this morning a lot about delivery systems. We can use them. Some of the molecules we have, they are excellent, but they do not go through blood-brain barrier, or they cannot be taken orally. So we should really work together. So there's a lot of room for nanomedicine. And with this, I want to stop my introduction. And we continue with the talks, and of course, thank you for your attention. If you have an immediate question to my presentation, then we can answer it. Otherwise, we move on, and if we have time at the end, we still can come back.